Anirudh, Annie, Pathak is a divorced middle-aged man living with his teenage son Raghav Pathak, an aspiring engineer, who is awaiting the results of his entrance examination in the hope of enrolling in the Indian Institute of Technology. On the eve of the results, Annie gives Raghav a bottle of champagne, promising him that they will celebrate his success together, unaware that Raghav is under intense pressure. The bottle of champagne only fuels Raghav's worries as to what will happen if he does not make it. The next day, while checking the results at his friend's apartment, Raghav finds out that he has not qualified for IITG exam results and, afraid of being called loser, he deliberately slips off the balcony to commit suicide, but survives, although in a fatal state. Annie rushes to the hospital where he tries to comfort his ex-wife Maya Pathak. She blames Annie for not noticing how much pressure Raghav was in. Dr. Suneet Dev, S.D. Kasbekar informs Maya and Annie that Raghav's condition is deteriorating as Raghav does not have the will to live. Realizing that his son is afraid of being called loser, Annie, who stumbles upon pictures of his college days, begins to recount the tales of his time in college in an attempt to rekindle hope in Raghav, who he wants to believe that his father, too, was once a loser. During the recount, the story flashes back to 1992 when it was his first day of college at the National College of Technology campus. Annie is allotted a room in Hostel 4 aka H4, which is famous for housing losers. The occupants of H4 have earned this tag for numerous unknown reasons, one of them being the poorest quality of mess food on the entire campus. Dissatisfied, he applies to change his hostel block, although a clerk informs him that his application might take time. Meanwhile, a senior H4 student Gurmeet Singh Dhillo pokes Annie in the butt the first time they meet, but they soon become friends, with Annie describing Seksa as a hypersexual senior who was obsessed with pornography all the time. At this point, Raghav has a convulsion, causing Annie and Maya to panic, but Dr. Kasbekar reveals that he is now conscious, though his condition is still the same. When he asks about Seksa, though, Annie, convinced that Raghav was listening, goes in with Maya to meet Raghav, who doubts if it is indeed a true story. Annie, convinced that he just needs proof to make his plan work, eventually traces Seksa, who is currently working as a consultant in London, through a call, and informs him about the tragedy. Seksa postpones his work commitments for the week and flies down to Mumbai to reunite with Annie and Maya, and seeing Seksa, an initially dismayed Raghav recognizes him and puts all his doubts to rest, as Seksa continues with the story. Seksa narrates Annie's desperation to change his hostel, and in 1992, during their initial conversation at a canteen, they notice Maya for the first time. As the story returns to the present, Seksa narrates to Annie and Maya during a lunch break how he and a friend named Himanshu Acid Deshmukh once received a funny proroguing request in 1992 from the father of a fresher named Sundar Mummy Srivastav, a young introvert who is tied to his mother's apron strings and is very dependent on her. At this stage, Mummy joins Seksa in the present day, working as an executive in the United States, which has thickened his accent. When both Annie and Seksa spill news of Acid's arrival, Mummy exclaims to Raghav that Acid is bad news. Annie then describes Acid as a school topper who began flunking his college tests and developed a bitter, swearing tongue. A brief introduction for Acid soon pans back to Seksa's classmate joining them in the hospital. All of them briefly reminisce about the fun they had in their college days, showing their photo album to Raghav and telling him about Annie's newfound relationship with Maya back then, even as Dr. Kasbekar, time and again, informs them that Raghav's brain is swelling, and his condition doesn't show signs of improvement. Meanwhile, back in 1992, a super senior student named Raghuveer Regi Chalkar, a reputed hostelite of Hostel 3 aka H3, which is known to be a world-class hostel and the absolute antithesis of H4, fast-tracks Annie's application and offers him to come to H3, but Annie has a sudden change of heart while discussing this with Maya, later rejecting the offer, much to the chagrin of Regi, who reveals that H4 super senior Darak D'Souza, a well-known athlete, has been rotting for the past 3 years after having similarly rejected a previous offer. Darak is revealed to be a chain smoker, and as he reunites with Annie, a scene of their first meeting back in 1992 plays out, wherein Darak reveals that Regi is a full-blown college bully who inducts talented students from other hostels into H3 and claims total credit for winning GC. And initially surprised, Annie soon learns that H4's loser status comes from its consistently worst performances over the years in the GC, which stands for General Championship, an annual sports competition when students of all 10 hostels of the entire institute compete in 30 sports over 2 months. Annie then convinces an initially skeptical Darak to try for one last time, and they begin a series of trials, hilariously failing in the bargain. After multiple attempts to find the right players fail, Darak gives the same reply to Annie as one that Dr. Kasbekar gives to him and Maya, that it has to be all about trying, for there's no other way. Back at Annie's house, everyone is having a discussion, where Darak, Acid, Seksa, and Mummy tell Annie and Maya that they'll be sticking around to support them after Annie requests them to leave due to the negative reports of Raghav's health, when just before everyone can assemble for dinner on the dining table, Annie and the losers find their long-missing member, Sahil Bevda Avasthi, at Annie's doorstep. Bevda joins the group at the hospital the next day, and as is implied, he is shown to be the Devdas-inspired drunkard of the group, also a known chess champion. They then recount that while preparing for the GC back in 1992, as they lose an initial string of matches in different sports, except carom tournaments where Mummy leads them to the quarterfinals, all 6 boys decide to sacrifice things closest to them until they win the GC. Annie, in his bid, decides to temporarily boycott Maya, avoiding her constantly. However, this tactic hits back severely on their faces when Bevda has a relapse and is taken to the hospital, causing the H4 team to lose hope. However, after a moment of introspection, Annie soon comes up with a trifecta of plans to defeat other hostels. His methods work, resulting in several massive victories for H4. During a celebration hangout at a bar, however, a violent clash between Regi's gang and the leading losers culminates in Mummy injuring his finger, causing Mummy to lose the carom semi-finals. Even as Acid consoles a crying Mummy, lack of representation in a weightlifting tournament instantly strikes an idea in Annie's head and he chooses Abhimanyu, Danda, Rathod, and H4 hostelite to lose 2 kilograms through training under Annie and Darak's supervision and compete in the 42 kg category. His hilarious victory is soon accompanied by Bevda's return from rehab, which the hostel celebrates. Bevda continues to reign in points for H4 in chess after his return. Darak's athletic skills prove a great asset for H4 and eventually, H4 makes it to the finals, pitted against H3 for the first time in college history. Back in the present, Dr. Kasbekar asks Annie, Maya, and their friends to leave Raghav at this point, so that he can have his surgical operation done the next morning, and they all promise Raghav to wait patiently for the climax. After the friends return to Annie's home, the friends have a discussion where Annie reveals that he probably failed in teaching Raghav how to deal with failures, pointing to the bottle of champagne he had bought for him. Seeing Mummy call up his son Vedant and tell him that he will gift him a bike irrespective of what his exam results would be, Maya surmises that Annie is an exceptional father and reconciles with him after an emotional breakdown. Right in the middle of the night, Annie's phone suddenly rings, wherein Dr. Kasbekar informs him that Raghav has had severe convulsions and an immediate operation would have to be carried out. Annie requests 10 minutes for finishing the story, and Dr. Kasbekar, initially reluctant, gives in after Maya supports him. They resume the story, where back in 1992, a vexed Regi, upon learning of H-Force methods, decides to sabotage Bevda by offering him a bottle of alcohol and deliberately has his teammate injure Daruk's foot. Bevda initially appears to be drunk when Annie and Seksa are to receive him, and after Annie departs for the basketball final, tends to move towards a loss in the game, when he suddenly reveals that he isn't drunk and that he had let his opponent make a huge mistake sacrificing his night. Eventually, with both Acid and Daruk winning the relay final, Bevda also wins the chess tournament. They reunite with Annie at the basketball court, and while Annie gets a penalty shot and aims for a three-pointer, his shot misses by almost an inch, causing H4 to lose the GC by a close margin. Back in the present, Raghav is shocked at this moment of loss and asks Annie if he felt like committing suicide at that moment, having lost a battle this close. Annie, Daruk, Mummy, Acid, Seksa, Bevda, and Maya take turns in replying with a no, as Annie then explains in a flashback to 1992 that Regi publicly called them champs instead of losers for the first time, creating a loud wave of cheer for H4 and congratulating the team for putting up a good fight. Annie then explains to Raghav that the H4 hostiles were never called losers again and that it is not one's results that decide whether he or she is a loser, but rather one's efforts. Convincing him that he tried very hard, Annie asks Raghav to put up a strong face and fight all his challenges in life, including the operation, and as he is being taken to the operation theatre, Raghav visualizes Annie, Daruk, Mummy, Acid, Seksa, Bevda and Maya in their younger selves cheering him to fight on. A year later, a fully recovered Raghav attends his first day of college, requesting the viewers to never ask what the name of his college is or what his rank was since he is content that he is getting to live life and enjoy it the maximum. As he reaches the new campus, he laughs at his seniors' question as grown-up apparitions of his parents and the rest of the losers look at him. Life is not about the destination, it's about the journey and how we face challenges along the way. We all encounter setbacks, failures, and moments when we feel like we are not enough, but the true measure of success lies in our ability to rise after each fall. What truly matters is not the labels others put on us, but how we define ourselves. Remember, failure is never the end. It's an opportunity to learn, grow, and come back stronger. Life is full of imperfections, but it's how we handle those imperfections that shape our true character. So, keep pushing forward, keep believing in yourself, and never let anyone or anything make you feel like a loser. Every challenge is an opportunity to prove that you are much more than the obstacles you face.